Candidate Michael Crosby here. Okay, I'm returning. We're talking about space technology. Now, making this in a for-profit item, understanding that it's reasonable to go from $10,000 a pound down to $8 a pound. And of course, along this way, there's a whole new line of products that are highly profitable. So permanent fund is the way to go. Now, what we're basically going to do here is what is cost effective right now, something that I have wanted to do for more than 25 years of my life. And I would have if it weren't for certain other factors. Some of you may know about them. I won't get into those at this moment. What we can do for profit is launch telescopes. Now, most people envision a telescope as basically an item that in fact is a NASA telescope. They think of the Hubble or something like that. An enormous project, enormously expensive. And it's not a great idea for a for-profit venture. So basically, what I'm talking about here is something cheaper. Something more like a Newton telescope. You basically can take cardboard tubes, if you can imagine, this, the core of a roll of paper towels, and make that into a small telescope. You can spend $1,000 making this little thing. You can put a little dot matrix electric engine in it. You put photovoltaics on it. You have a transmitter. You've got some shielding on it. And this is a little teeny tiny telescope that takes images and relays them to what? Well, primarily another satellite in orbit would be the easiest thing because that's a lower cost, but you could relay them to Earth. Now, basically, this small telescope is not obscured by atmosphere. It is, since it's also in space, that means that 24 hours a day it has access to space. So when you think about something like the Griffith Observatory, all of a sudden this little teeny tiny $1,000 telescope in space may not be quite as powerful as the Griffith Observatory. But in fact, it's fairly close. And it's not limited. It has 24-hour-a-day access. So basically now you figure out the cost per pound. Essentially, the telescopes that I wanted to put into orbit 25 years ago weighed about 1.6 pounds apiece, which basically means at NASA rates that would be $10,000 a pound. It would basically, you'd end up spending 20 grand a telescope to get it into space. Actually, the plan I wanted to do was viable at the time. I wanted to do 1-800-telescope. You just dial 1-800-telescope and you take your little modem thingy, which was your telephone receiver, and you put your phone receiver down in this little device, which is hooked to your computer, and that's how you would communicate through the line and pay and zip your credit card through and get your time on the telescope. Things have changed now. You can do it over the internet. So now we're talking about lifting systems that they're really looking at $1,000 a pound. That's 10 cents on the dollar of what NASA's been doing it for. And they're now building bigger and better systems. There are two major companies out there racing as fast as they can, and they're not the only ones. There's literally dozens of companies right now trying to find a way to compete for the small satellite market buck. Moving forward, space telescopes. So effectively, we can put a telescope into orbit, build it, put it into orbit, bring it online for $2,500 a telescope, which means we could do 100 of them for $250,000. Now I want you to think about telescope time. The amount of time that it costs per hour to get time on a telescope is enormous. Scholars worldwide are backed up. You have to get in quite a long line to get telescope time. This is not an easy thing to do. We're talking people that are on the cutting edge of their skill are waiting 6 months to get their time in on a telescope. The proposal that I have right here would allow tens of thousands of people to gain access to telescopes every day. By California doing this in a for-profit venture, we would thrust California literally into a leveraged portion of the #1 telescope distribution access time in the world. We would be thrusting forward our educational system in a massive way and be making a profit while doing it. Yes, this is a permanent fund concept, because if you realize that you don't want to spend billions of dollars on making another Hubble, and you realize that we can get something that's reasonably close to the Griffith Observatory, its equivalent, done very cheaply, we're talking about a lot of profit. Now basically my original design was a 6-month longevity, so divide $2,500 by the access time, 24 hours a day, 6 months. This gives you your figure. And guess what? It's enormous. We can basically sell time on telescopes at $5 a minute and make a fortune. If we wanted to sell it for less, we could and still make a profit. Just break out the calculator and you can see in a few moments that this proposal is completely sound, completely logical, and profitable. So now that we have made a breakthrough in understanding that now, yes, we can do something in space in a big way and do it immediately and create brand new high-tech jobs right here in California and put money into the pockets of each and every California citizen. The reason we need people literally at this to all participate, because it's our right. Number one, it's our right. Tracking back over time, since World War II, the great developments in technology, the vast amount of them were paid for with your tax dollars. So it is completely logical for the people to be able to say, hey, we're entitled to step in for some of the profits here and participate and get our cut. We're also talking about a project where if you're talking about the average citizen putting in $3 a piece, you're talking about very quickly coming up with hundreds of millions of dollars, which immediately make this concept viable and profitable. I'm going to talk more about this when I return. I'm really excited because all the numbers have come in. I've known the numbers have been in and been in the right place for years. And I'm kind of upset because there's been a lot of people dragging their feet. But now it's time for Californians to get the quick education, realize the financial opportunity, and sign up. More when I return.